let us check out what Pentagon deploys stealth fighter jets as Venezuelan aircrafts buzz.
Is ordering a squadron of a dozen stealth fighter jets to the Caribbean.
So this was September 5th, right? This was a day ago.
Of course, this all comes as Venezuela sends a message to the Trump administration, too. Lucas Tomlinson is at the White House tonight for us. Good evening to you, Lucas.
Good evening, Aisha. The White House has approved the deployment of 10 F-35 stealth fighter jets to Puerto Rico after a pair of Venezuelan F-16 jets buzzed an American-guided missile destroyer in the Caribbean. President Trump sent the following warning to Venezuela moments ago.
Yeah, apparently they were trying to fly, Venezuela was trying to fly their jets over the Armada, right? The U.S. Armada that's over there. And Trump was like, don't do that again or else you're going to get fucking shot.
The Aragua gang on board were killed. The State Department declared the group a foreign terrorist organization in February. A Republican member of the Senate Armed Services Committee called the strike justified.
The boat had been warned to stop. They chose not to. They were clearly running drugs. We had been tracking it since it left Venezuela.
Many Democrats called the strike a violation of international law.
They think they can get away with this. God knows what they're going to do next. So that's it.
This is against international law. Dude, shut the fuck up.
That this was not a legal action.
President Trump's defense secretary says the actions
are
justified
law don't do
after
shit.
400,000
We know
Americans
that.
died
We all know
of drug
this.
overdoses during
If
the Biden
international
administration.
law actually cared, right, they would be already in these wars. That's already happening all over the fucking world.
The U.S. military carried out drone strikes in 7 different countries. Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Libya, Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia.
Pussies.
Over 500 in all, killing an
they're
estimated
waiting
3,500
till
people,
they're not going to do
hundreds of
anything.
civilians. President Trump also made it official.
You think the
name of the
ICC
Department
is
of
going to do
Defense.
shit?
We're going
Fuck
Department
no.
of War.
You know how many conflicts there are?
This marks the second time in
Think they're
American
gonna
history the
fucking hear
Department of
any
War
of it?
nomenclature
Fuck no.
has been used to describe the cabinet overseeing the U.S. military. The first time was back in 1789. Of course, it needs congressional approval, the name change. Aisha?
And Lucas, tonight we're hearing about a new incoming report from Health and Human Services on autism. What do you know about that?
Well, Aisha, according to the Wall Street Journal, a new report from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and HHS this new report is going to be on autism and saying that a vitamin B9 deficiency and taking the pain reliever Tylenol during pregnancy could be linked to autism. And we just received this statement from HHS. It says, quote, "We are using gold standard science to get to the bottom of America's unprecedented rise in autism rates. Until we release the final report, any claims about its contents are nothing more than speculation. And it's not clear when this final report will be released." Aisha?
Okay, we'll wait for it. Lucas Tomlinson live at the White House. Lucas, thank you.
Every boatload of any form of drug that poisons the American people is a imminent threat. At the DOD, our job is to defeat imminent threats. A foreign terrorist organization poisoning
apparently
drugs,
they're all the Democrats are crying now about the strike on the cartel
and
members.
People try to do that, they're going to meet the same fate.
Sending quite a message to Venezuela and the cartels. President Trump committing more assets to counter foreign cartels while Democrats are vilifying him, claiming he did not act within his legal authority when he authorized
basically Trump
force
is showing
to
off how
that alleged drug peddling speedboat,
how the
which was headed
Democrats are willing
directly
to
for the United States. Meanwhile, the
to
Trump
bring in
administration says those allegations
cartel
are a farce,
members into
and
the
the Tuesday
states
strike was
and
only the
shit like that.
beginning for those looking to terrorize the United
They
States
love
of America.
lawlessness, right?
Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kaylee McEnany here with my co-host,
They
Harris
love
Faulkner.
killing people.
Also joining us, Nicole Parker.
Right?
Not
They
Nicole
hate
Parker.
Trump
Oh my goodness,
so
that is
much.
Dr. Nicole Sapphire.
They're willing
Not
to
Nicole Parker.
throw
She's
away
wonderful.
all
The
their
great Nicoles. I'll
morals
take either one. And Rosanna
just to
Scotto,
try and
Fox
get a
5 New York
one-up
anchor
on
and
Trump.
host of The Underground Economy on Fox Nation, and Guy Benson, Fox News
Fucking
contributor and host of The
losers.
Guy Benson Show on Fox News Radio. Well, let's start here. Secretary of State Marco Rubio gave praise to President Trump for going on offense, saying the attack was life-saving and a legal use of his presidential authority.
This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison, and under President Trump, those days are over.
Well, Trump has spent months trying to undo what Biden failed to do for the last 4 years.
The numbers.
Now, according to the NIH, there were over 400,000 overdose deaths under former President Biden. Think about that, 400,000 Americans gone. And Democrats won't give Trump the recognition because they're too busy pandering to the criminals, like Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen, who famously sat down for some drinks with MS-13 member Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Well, Van Hollen didn't stop there. Listen
I wonder
to this
why
beauty
they didn't
from
even
MSNBC.
they didn't even talk about the Colorado stuff that was happening. None of the Democrats fucking tried to protect those people for
Chris,
some reason.
you're absolutely
They're
right.
willing
What
to
this
protect these other
was
people. Like,
an
what the fuck?
extrajudicial killing, pure and simple.
fucking
It was
jury
illegal.
picking.
I think the Trump administration just wanted to get a video of a boat blowing up because they did that at the same time they're cutting the federal budget when it comes to actual drug enforcement and serious drug trafficking.
What is that guy talking
Dr.
about?
Sapphire. So this was all about Trump wanting to get a video. Van Hollen uses the term, this is illegal on many counts. And we'll get to the law in a moment. I have that ready to go. Illegal on many counts. I want to bring up another count. It's one we just showed in the intro. It's the 400,000 Americans who have died of fentanyl. 400,000 daughters, sons, brothers, sisters not here because an attack, I'm going to call it an attack, on the United States, drug smuggling across our border and over our seas.
You know, the Wall Street Journal essentially did a hit piece on the Trump administration over this, and they quoted Juan Gonzalez, who was part of the Biden administration, saying that they needed to show legitimate self-defense for this attack and saying he did not do this. And just as you pointed out, 80,000 Americans died of drug overdoses last year. That's more than car accidents and homicides combined. That's more than the 23,000 worldwide deaths from terrorist attacks in 2023. So the way I see it, drugs coming into our country is the biggest national security threat we have. And yes, maybe we have a slight decrease in the drug overdose deaths, which people are celebrating. The reality is this is not a victory. This is just a temporary reprieve from the expanded use of naloxone. We have always played defense when it comes to drug overdose. We are plugging holes, we are fixing walls, we are getting drugs, and we are having to clean up all of these overdoses. But the time is now that we go on the offensive when it comes to drug cartels, and President Trump is doing just that.
You know, I want to get to the law, too, Guy. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the power to declare war. But there are a slew of Office of Legal Counsel opinions. That's not binding authority, but they cite binding authority going back to 1980 that illustrate the president's expansive power with foreign affairs. I want to pull up this memo from 1980. The president's inherent constitutional authority as commander-in-chief, his broad foreign policy power, and his duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed generally empower him to deploy the armed forces abroad without a declaration of war by Congress or other congressional authorization. It goes on, and there's much more nuance. This will have to be litigated by the Supreme Court. Nevertheless, he has broad authority to act.
As a commander-in-chief, as all presidents do, I'm not an expert on international law or his presidential authority.
I mean, didn't Obama fucking do his commander-in-chief duties when he fucking drone strike those people and kids?
Who would vote no? Who would look at this type of action from the United States and say, no, we actually want to protect these drug traffickers and cartel members? That's a vote that I would welcome, actually, on Capitol Hill. I think there's clearly a deterrence here, because Senator Van Hollen, who has a completely screwed up moral compass, whether it's Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Israel, Hamas, he's really...
I mean, shit, you literally had Bush be like, yeah, let's go into Afghanistan, or what, right, let's go after the weapons of mass destruction and shit.
Well, it's not a photo op to the drug smugglers who are now at the bottom of the ocean, number one. And number two, it's not just going to be consumed, that video here at home. You think the cartels didn't pay attention to what they saw in that video? Might that change their conduct and their decision making? I think that would be at least part of the calculus here that was completely dismissed in the clip that we watched.
I love
Trump's going after
Harris, I could name a few that I'm just going to surmise my vote against this. Maybe all of the senators we watched on the Hill yesterday in the RFK hearing, maybe Sanders, maybe Warren, definitely Van Hollen. We could come up with a list.
Yeah, it becomes a midterm issue then, which is fascinating. Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, what you were talking about, Nicole, in terms of how much we have put into the survivability of these overdoses because there's so much of this illicit drug use on our streets. I think that's important to say. We have slowed things down at the border, but there's a tremendous amount of that product already here in the United States. We have many more lives to protect and save because of what happened under the Biden administration, and for even years before that, but precipitously bad under Biden. But then you've got to figure out, well, okay, why is the president sending 10 F-fighters to the Caribbean, to Puerto Rico, to base them there for a little while? Well, because these are cartels that are just going to do what they do. They're going to figure out a new avenue in.
They're already getting smarter. They already have new ways of coming in.
Yeah, I mean, all you did was close off one way of getting in.
States, you heard Marco Rubio, our now Secretary of State, then Senator of Florida.
I mean, they can still get through by land,
yes. I mean, they know that when they come up through the Caribbean, Florida's going to get hit. Come on, we've got to gear up.
I mean, obviously, air is a little harder because we have a lot of air control and, like, people scanning the right airways, making sure shit's not...
begged Biden to come up with
people don't fucking collide and shit.
Trump is doing it now.
Rosanna Hegseth, we heard him at the beginning of this segment use the word offense. And I think it's apropos that we're doing this story on a day where the Department of Defense is going to be relabeled the Department of War.
Is basically
to me, it just encompasses the entire
option.
Foreign policy of President Trump. Offense, offense, offense. We will go on offense to protect Americans, whether it means bombing Fordo or protecting Americans from fentanyl by going after the cartels.
Kayleigh, I'm thinking, the war war on drugs has been a topic for decades. Administration after administration, millions, if not billions, has been spent on trying to get rid of drugs on our streets. And yet it doesn't seem like we've made a dent. Now, I don't know whether this is constitutional or not. I'm not in that field to weigh in on that. But I will say it sends a very strong message. And if you're going to be one of those people who's going to be a mule and take drugs in, maybe you'll think twice about your life. Maybe it's not a done deal that you're going to make it to America. Hey, listen, in New York, we have places all around the city that are safe places to shoot up. And people in those neighborhoods, they know what it's like. They're dealing with the war on drugs right in their neighborhood.
They give you safe spaces to fucking
Something has to be done. A message has to be sent. Maybe this is the message.
And in addition to what's going on with Pete Hegseth and President Trump, what they're saying, we also have to focus on Mexico because they're allowing the cartels
you want
to
to kill
continue
yourself?
to grow.
Go to those
cut them off
safe
at the knees when it
spaces.
comes to their
That's great.
finances, and also stop the supply of drugs coming across from China and other places.
And
But you're just going to be with a lot of homeless people and
this, but
like
pulling back to the
downright
Harvard
depressed
Constitutional
people,
Law days, there is vast power to act. There is a ton of 2001
But yeah, you can
opinion-making
shoot up down there.
that might in fact give the president some authority if in fact these cartels are legally classified as terrorist organizations. A big if. The Supreme Court, though, they'll have a voice in this.
Well, Senator Moody of Florida was saying that the designation already that the president has made has given him legal landscape, if you will, to move forward along with what you're citing.
Yep, these cartels are responsible for more American deaths than any other terrorist organization. So they need to be treated as a terrorist organization. And as Pete Hegseth said, we have to go on the offense if we care at all about American lives.
And the battlefield has changed when you have 400,000 Americans dying here at home by drugs shipped across.
All right, for more on this, let's bring in Mike Sorelli, retired Navy SEAL and host of Unsung Arlington on Fox
So it seems
Nation.
like just a
Mike,
bunch
let's
of
dive into,
cut
we
up
saw that video of
segments.
taking out the Venezuelan drug boat. And our colleague here at Fox, Lucas Tomlinson, was deployed back in 2003 when he was in the Navy. And he did drug interdiction in the Caribbean aboard a frigate. And he said, back then there was a law enforcement component on the frigate. They would shoot to disable the boat, try and apprehend the drug runners, and then just confiscate the drugs. Now it's an entirely different mission that certainly feels like simply shoot to kill.
Arguably, I could say this is long overdue. You look at the toll, and I don't know the exact number of the amount of Americans we've lost to drugs, whether it's fentanyl, cocaine, or any other major illicit drug.
Oh, that's too bad. Oh no. Oh no, it's on fire. Oh no, that's unfortunate. Just a unfortunate event. Oh my. That sucks.
I think this response is long overdue, and God bless our law enforcement brethren, but this is far outside their capability. And so this is where the Department of War comes into play. And it should be stiffer actions. It should be stiffer penalties for anyone trying to illicitly smuggle drugs into our nation that could potentially kill our youth and Americans. So I'm a strong proponent of the action that the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and President Trump are taking.
Mike, this is Jillian. Intelligence sources have been saying that if you're going to shoot to kill, a euphemism in this case, if you're going to take people out, 11 people, as happened the other day, you got to be 110% sure that those targets are culpable. Based on what you know from serving, do you feel comfortable that the government was 110% sure that all 11 of these people were the right target?
Look, the Pentagon has information
I would love to
we
be the
don't
person
fucking
who said you have to be
know,
110%
obviously.
sure on anything.
I mean, they're obviously not going to tell us
battlefield or
what
situations
goes
like this,
into
you never have
fucking
the full
intelligence
picture.
gathering for these
You in fact have
things.
to make very strong, decisive, quick decisions.
I mean, that's
with
fucking
60 or 70% of the site picture of what we call intelligence, and that is the weight of the commanders that are making those decisions. That's the weight of the Secretary of
also,
War.
what does it have?
And sometimes, guys, we get it wrong. That's
if
war.
information like that in the hands of civilians, what does that do? It does absolutely nothing.
Or 100% assurance on these targets.
You're not
when it comes to
fucking
American
soldiers.
lives, that's our job, to make those hard decisions for which 99% of Americans don't want to make, trying to protect our youth, Americans, and our way of life.
Mike, I want to play for you a little bit of SecDef Hegseth. He was talking about this strike. And keep in mind, the Cartel del Soles, for which Nicolas Maduro has been indicted back in 2020 for being the leader of on narco terror and trafficking charges. Here's a little bit of Hegseth. Here's what he says.
But if you're trafficking drugs and you're a known cartel entity, a designated terror organization, and they're headed for the United States or part of a process that would head to the United States, that will have lethal consequences. The poisoning of the American people is over. Those foreign terrorists who were defeated in the Caribbean were just the beginning of what will happen if foreign terrorist organizations continue to try to poison the American people and kill them in our homeland.
And so, Mike, I want to get your reaction to that. It seems that this FTO or SDGT designations are really what's driving the authorization, if you will, to take these actions.
Or thumbnail.
It is. I think putting the moniker of these are narco-terrorist organizations, and hence they fall under the rules of engagement for the military, is vitally important. And I think it's long overdue, guys. I remember the campaign back to the 80s of Don't Do Drugs. That was a very indirect way of curbing our addiction
Don't do the drugs.
To drugs, but you got to go to the source on this. And presidency after presidency has taken a soft approach, has proven ineffective. And guys, you're left with one resort. If we truly want to protect the American people, then you've got to go after the source. You got to go after the cartels, and that means lethal action.
Mike, real quick before we let you go, what do you make of the president's decision to rename DOD the Department of War?
Well, I can tell you this: a lot of people are going to have an allergic reaction, and they don't understand the history. Jennifer said it earlier on her segment. It's been the War Department since 1789 to 1947. And when the national military establishment was made, it was to really invoke bureaucratic unification in a softer post-war image. At the end of the day, there's two messages here, guys. There's internally and externally. Internally, the War Department or Department of War is a cultural mind shift, that these social experiments within DOD are done. At the end of the day, we have to be the most technologically, tactically, lethal force in the world. We are.
Yeah, I don't know why they were trying to neuter our military.
It is very simple.
That was
to our
fucking
enemies.
Weird.
Of America is back, and we're serious
compared
about
to all
business.
the other military
we are always
forces,
in the pursuit of
they were
peace.
trying to neuter
but
us.
we will. We are trained in the art of war. We are the best military force. So don't test us. People respond to strength. Weakness invites enemies at your doorstep.
No more nation building as well, it sounds like. Mike, got to leave it there. Thank you so much for taking time.
Republican Senator Ashley Moody of the great state of Florida.
I don't know why the
Judiciary
military
and
is being
Homeland
used as some
Security
kind of fucking
Committees. She's also
political
served as the
vehicle
state's
right
Attorney
now.
General.
It's fucking
Good
weird.
to see you.
It
Let's
shouldn't
begin
be
with
like
that
that.
legal question about what the Trump administration is doing now to knock out narco-terrorism.
And thank you so much for bringing up this topic. You have always been paying attention to the number of Americans we were losing to these potent drugs. And just to put it in perspective, you gave the number during the Biden administration of 400,000 Americans that died just in that short period of time. And we know every year that was going up and up. It's skyrocketing. And why is that? It's because these drugs, the synthetic opioids, not just fentanyl, but the synthetic variations of that are becoming more and more potent. I remember as Attorney General, I was desperately asking the president, Biden, to think outside the box. We had to do something different. What was always being done was not working.
Oh,
we would
no,
have
that's your...
7
See,
people
you
splayed out
tried
at a
to
gas
bag your
station
hopes
that
on
we had to rush
Biden
in
of
and
doing
try and save
anything.
their lives,
No,
here in Florida,
you
and
asked
that
a
was happening
cancer
over and over.
patient to do
And so I
something
asked
while he
him,
was
let's
like,
declare these
not even
these
in his
cartels,
presidency.
terrorist
He wasn't
organizations.
even
Let's
doing
take it a
his
step
job for
further.
like
This is
half of his
so deadly.
presidency.
It's a weapon of mass destruction.
Right?
We have to
He
do
took
more.
he
Of
took
course that fell
20
on deaf
days,
ears. So you
30
have a
days,
president
sometimes.
coming in and
The
saying,
fucker was gone
business as
for
usual
a
isn't
while.
cutting it. We lost 400,000 under the Biden administration. You know how many Americans in the military
He had
since
his
9/11?
lackeys pick up
About
the
7,000.
fucking slack
I mean,
because he
this
couldn't
is
do
what
shit.
the number one killer of Americans. China knows it. The synthetic products are coming out of there. They know it because they're using it in negotiations with our country. Mexico knows it. And so President Trump's come in and said, no, we're going to declare these cartels foreign terrorist organizations, and we're going to take whatever means is necessary to protect American lives. He always thinks outside the box. What's always been business as usual doesn't work. We're going to try something new. And I think Americans should be proud of a president that puts American lives and safety first.
Wow, that information, too, that you gave us on Biden and how you were begging him, basically, to try to come up with something new, that is very jarring considering how many Americans we lost on his watch. Let's go forward with this. The White House is rallying behind Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The fireworks were live right in this hour yesterday. I mean, the liberal senators teed off. There were some exploding conversations during that Senate hearing that unfolded, and Democrats went hard at the secretary, and he was giving as good as he got.
We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to
everybody was sucking fucking Biden's dick during fucking during his presidency.
And grifters.
Because they were getting free shit all the time. Oh, we can stay in and not do anything.
Years, while the chronic disease in our children went up to 76%. and you said nothing.
Should be doing is honoring your promise.
And they were sucking Elizabeth Warren's fucking taint.
I never promised.
Fucking Bernie Mac's crusty old ass. And all these crusty old fucks.
And I know you've taken
I just love getting boned by them.
from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you catch that number? I mean, that was so jarring yesterday. He was given the facts on her. Vice President J.D. Vance, with strong words in the Secretary's defense, posted this. When I see all these senators trying to lecture and gotcha Bobby Kennedy today, all I can think is you all support off-label, untested, and irreversible hormonal therapies for children, mutilating our kids, and enriching big pharma.
Honestly, the people becoming stagnant during the whole COVID shit, I think that's what really fucking tipped the tables.
I didn't get to watch the hearings today.
A lot of people got way too comfortable, and they're now retarded.
Person. And he means very well, and he's got some little different ideas. If you look at what's going on in the world with health, and
Too
look at
afraid
this
to
country
fight
also with regard to
nowadays.
health, I like the fact that he's different.
What that hearing was supposed to be was a laying out, if you will, of the
Always
president's
sucking that
agenda
dick.
in terms of health care. In fact, that was the title of the hearing. It turned into almost like a wannabe impeachment from liberals toward RFK Jr.
Well, two things should not surprise
Yeah,
us.
fucking
Number
Asmongold
one,
would
the
gladly suck
Democrats
that dick
don't
just to
want there
fucking
to
stay
be
in his house and not do
or
anything,
review
right?
of different scientific viewpoints on what's happening to American health. Remember, this is the same party that during COVID was working with the social media companies.
He talks about
to
not
shut
wanting to
down
do
any
anything and just
information that was
wanting to
being
play
shared
video
that
games
wasn't
all
what the
day.
government
It's
told
just
you
like,
what
yeah,
was the
well,
truth and what was
sorry,
right.
that's
When I
not
was
gonna
Attorney
happen.
General, we had to do a grand
Lazy
jury
fucking
just to
asshat.
figure out if what was being put out there by the government during the Biden administration was true and whether there were misinformations and whether there was something put out that was in coordination, that, you know, how they were trying to
he's
shut
not
out
really
different
lazy.
viewpoints.
He has
And
like
so it also should not surprise
he
anyone
brought
is
up
that
like
President Trump backed
a lot of businesses,
Kennedy
but
because he
he
is, and
left
keep
right
with the theme we
after
were just
after
talking
causing
about.
a bunch of
It is
saying a
insanity
bunch
to
of
keep doing the same things over and over, expecting a different outcome. He wants somebody that will question, look, you and I, when we were kids under 2, how many vaccines were they pushing? How many were recommended? What was the government saying take? I think it's doubled, right? And so if
well, I'm older than you
we
are.
have
It's
sick and
definitely
sicker
more than
people, we need
doubled
to
in my
question.
lifetime. Yeah, definitely.
It just needs to be questioned.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't mean we don't have mandates. It's just mandates does not mean we don't provide for and make sure vaccines are available, but let's question and readdress. And I think that's what he's trying to accomplish.
Look, I would have to think in the Senate, you might even know this, Senator Tina Smith, but she made a false accusation against RFK Jr. And it wasn't just the first time. Well, Secretary Kennedy was ready. Watch.
You went on Fox News blaming school shootings on antidepressants. You have no evidence of that. You have no evidence of a connection. And you want to talk about...
You're just saying something.
Well, I blame
stuff
school
up.
shootings on the
Right?
retarded
Secretary
parents who
Kennedy
don't
wants to
fucking pay
present you with
attention.
information that does
Or
not
to the police force who got literally tips in advance to make sure, hey, this person is not sound in mind.
Yeah, you are.
Right.
So, you know, the
Jesus
senator
fuck.
actually needs to watch the tape.
There's so many
for herself.
signs, yet
Here it
nobody
is on
fucking
Fox and Friends,
right.
right
People
after
just
that Minneapolis
enable the
shooting. Here's what
fucking
Kennedy actually
bullshit.
said. Watch.
Makes me want to fucking hang these people.
Launching studies on.
Makes me want to fucking go vigilante and put bullets in these motherfuckers myself.
Some of the SSRI drugs and some of the other psychiatric drugs that might be contributing to violence. You know, many of them on there had black box warnings that warn of suicidal ideation and homicidal ideation. So we can't exclude those as a culprit, and those are the kind of studies that we're doing.
Did Senator Tina Smith just maybe not watch it and somebody handed her a note and said, go after RFK Jr.?
And I think you're going to see them try to shut down the exchange of information about what is truly causing harm and deaths to Americans. And to have President Trump and Secretary Kennedy come in and say,
you guys were already
as a
kind of
government,
doing that now.
let's promote
before.
exchange of information and dialogue on the issues that we are facing.
Even Trump during his first term,
crisis,
motherfucker was fucking up.
The challenge that America is facing in terms of overdose and deaths. I mean, all of these things should not be shut down. We should encourage government
Till
to
this
engage
day,
on the most challenging issues to this
kind
country
of better,
and to
but
Americans.
he's still
and we should
still
promote
acting
that,
like
not try
a
to shut it down
fucking
at every turn.
right
Well,
liberal.
Senator Moody, we got to see a little
because
bit
he
of
is
what you all
one.
are
He's a
dealing with
fucking
on the
Democrat.
Hill as you lead up to a midterm year, and liberals seem to be just willing to make stuff up. Some of them, it just is mind-boggling. Thank you very, very much for being in focus. Appreciate you.
I would say stand by tomorrow. It's something that words matter. Titles matter, cultures matter. George Washington founded the War Department, and we'll see. Stand by.
So Secretary Pete Hegseth yesterday hinting at a renaming of the Defense Department, and later today, President Trump is expected to sign an executive order changing the Pentagon to its former namesake, the Department of War. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen is a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He joins us now. One of the questions today that I heard this morning was, would this require congressional action? What do you think?
No, I don't believe it does. Renaming it just shows a different mindset. The Department of Defense is meaning that you're defending. You're not being proactive, but you're being reactive. And the whole point of peace through strength is that you're trying to prevent wars. You can't prevent wars if you're always reacting to something. Sometimes you got to be proactive in that. I love the idea of getting back to the Department of War. We are in a very volatile time.
Get there
It's one of the most volatile times we've had since prior to World War II. And this is changing the
already
mindset
would
that
happen
President
in
Trump
that
and Secretary
fucking
Pete
minute.
Hegseth
You're
has
already
said. We
too
are now
fucking
focused
late.
on
They already
lethality
ran, dude.
and the warfighter.
Look.
And I couldn't agree more with this. The Department of Defense, it should not only be reactive, and we've been reactive since World War II.
All right, and that is when the
someone
change
just
was
got
made.
stabbed and now they're dead, and now the
Proactive action was
person
shown
ran
this
off.
week,
Oh, that sucks.
In regards to the
Now
drug boat
there's
coming
a
from
manhunt
Venezuela,
for that
and
person.
Secretary of Defense War, Pete Hegseth, he said this yesterday.
Mr. Secretary, what legal authority did the Pentagon invoke to strike that boat full of drug smugglers?
We have the absolute and complete authority to conduct that. First of all, just the defense of the American people alone. 100,000 Americans were killed each year under the previous administration because of an open border and open drug traffic flow. That is an assault on the American people. Every boatload of any form of drug that poisons the American people is an imminent threat. And at the DOD, our job is to defeat imminent threats.
And Ilhan Omar, but she's not the only one, is questioning the legality. She wrote this: I condemn the lawless and reckless
Somali
actions in the southern
pirate.
Caribbean. Congress has not declared war on Venezuela or Trinidad, and the mere designation of a group as a terrorist organization does not give any president carte blanche to ignore Congress's clear constitutional authority on matters of war and peace. So again, I ask you as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, what do you think about the authority here?
Well, we have the authority to do so, and Omar carries zero weight,
Somalia
and she's completely irrelevant when it comes to this. Anybody that wants to talk about national security should not be talking to Omar. She has zero credibility to this whatsoever. The fact of the matter is this was in international water. The boat had been warned to stop. They chose not to. They were clearly running drugs. We had been tracking it since it left Venezuela, and this is what you get. You play stupid games, you have stupid results. And for Venezuela, the message to them is mess around and find out. We don't have Biden's administration in office. You have President Trump. We are being proactive, which goes back to changing from the Department of Defense to the Department of War. You continue to act this way. You continue to want to be a cartel rather than a legitimate country. We're going to continue to destroy all the assets. You want to fly a jet close to our assets? Mess around, find out what's going to happen next.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you about that. Can you explain to people what happened this morning in terms of what Venezuela did?
So I believe, I haven't talked to anybody from Venezuela, but we believe that they tried to basically prove a point. We had a Navy ship in international water. They chose to fly a jet dangerously close to it, too close to the fact that they were also warned. They're lucky they didn't get shot down. It was 100% being provocative going towards us, and we think it was in a result to us shooting down one of their drug ships. And I do mean one of their drug ships. This ship that we destroyed was dispatched from Venezuela. And so this was a response, and we're going to respond back to what they did today.
All right, Senator, thank you. Glad you're back in Washington, even if you're not, but you said it is safer, so we'll keep in touch with you and maybe see you next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dana.
All right, hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith, along with Kaylee McEnany, Jessica Tarlov, Jesse
so they just go on talking
It
about
is 5 o'clock in New York City, and this
the
is
events.
The 5. America's warrior ethos is back. President Trump signing an executive order renaming the Department of Defense to its original title, the Department of War.
Continue.
For American shores, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says this strike was not the end, it was the opening shot.
Every boatload of any form of drug that poisons the American people is an imminent threat.
They keep playing this one clip again.
Defeat imminent threats. A foreign terrorist organization poisoning your people with
I
drugs
think we can just
coming
kind
from a
of
drug
skip
cartel
this.
is no different than Al Qaeda. And there's 11 narco terrorists.
And even if it means siding with the Democrats all
smoked the drug boat, and there's 11 narco terrorists at the bottom
and even if
of the ocean.
Siding, and yet the Democrats always have to reflexively oppose the president, even if it means siding with the narco terrorists.
Correct.
Abrego Garcia's biggest
Yeah,
fan,
they're always siding with the criminal activity. It's
what
weird.
This was an extrajudicial killing.
Doesn't make any
pure
sense.
and simple.
Oh yeah,
it was
here's
illegal.
this guy.
It's alarming. It's unprecedented.
And it's dangerous. And it's the latest example of how Trump continues to overextend and abuse military power. He keeps pushing the boundaries to places we've never been before.
I guess it never surprised you where Democrats are go with the defend
places
or
we
after,
never been. But what the fuck is that
the president's
person
announcement a
talking
few moments
about?
ago? We all watched it
I think
live
that
here on the
dude's
Fox News
high.
channel. Now we're talking Department of War. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War. What do you think about all this, Jesse?
Well, I'm jealous of Pete. I mean, he got a name upgrade. I got to change my show's name. Jesse Waters Primetime just doesn't cut it.
Call it torture.
Isn't that what your show's called? So I don't know if Truman is a woke guy. From what I understand,
Truman?
After World War II, they needed a standing army to have troops stationed in Asia and in Europe to kind of keep the peace and maintain a posture during the Cold War. So we used to just have
that's why
the
you
draft
did
every time we went to
NATO
war.
and
So even though
fucking
we weren't
UN,
at
right?
war, it was still a Cold War, and we needed to defend our interests. So we consolidated the Army, Navy, Marines, and there you go. It was the Defense Department. But it's now the Department of War, and I think America's enemies are upset. You know who's really upset? Van Hollen. So it just came out today, and I'm sure Jessica saw it. The Democrats are really trying to reconnect with normal people. That was what it says. They've lost touch with normal people. Let me just explain how normal people think. When you see a video of a cocaine canoe get smoked out of the water by the U.S. military, normal people say, yeah, all right? We're like, smoke some narcos,
Hey,
goodbye, light them up,
I said,
see you
hey,
later.
see ya.
That's what normal people do. Normal people like to see
I
the
was
war
like,
on
yeah,
drugs
peace out.
fought
Yeah,
as a
that-
war
you shouldn't have
because
done that.
it hasn't worked the way before. And a lot of people in America, normal people, have families that have lost people to drugs. So they see this canoe and they see a potential death coming. And we like to light this guy up. The Democrats see this and they call it an extrajudicial killing. Normal people don't talk like that. Normal people don't talk like extrajudicial. You know who talks like that? Lawyers. They have to stop sounding like lawyers. You sound weak. You sound wily. Lawyers are unpopular, almost as unpopular as pollsters, Jessica. And when you contrast that with Trump, who's taking strong action, and you
it
have
is
a guy
true.
that's saying
Well, yeah, they keep literally they throw out lawyery terms, and it's just like, dude, to the normal person, they don't give a fuck about politics or lawyers or court system. Like, what the fuck? Get the fuck out of here.
judicial killing, it just makes you guys look pathetic and not normal.
Jessica, to Jesse's point, I mean, are Democrats falling for the latest trap, or aren't they just playing right into the hands of Republicans with Democrats now defending drug lords?
No, I don't see it that way. And I just want to, on the lawyer front, Jesse's always like, so embarrassing at the party of lawyers. If you guys had better lawyers, you would win more cases.
We've won everything
you
at the
lost
Supreme Court.
Literally every lawyer that showed up in court at the 2020 election
Oh, that
got
one.
left. Oh, the big one.
That one.
The big lie. The
That
big
was
one.
not really
Okay.
well argued. We got better ones this time, and we're like 8-0. But go ahead, Jessica. I don't want to take
Any hoodles. Yeah, Harry Truman, not famously woke.
So
I should
basically,
note
this
a bunch
person,
of
this
presidents
person
that
is
served our
the
country,
Democrat
not
liberal
Donald
of the
Trump,
group,
but, Truman,
right?
Eisenhower,
Who,
JFK, LBJ,
who
Nixon,
basically
Ford, Carter,
always
Reagan, H.W. Bush, all of them. was
is
just fine to call it
the
Department of
anti
Defense.
of the
You know who
group,
else calls it the
right?
Department of Defense? The people that Donald Trump are jealous of.
I think
the
the-
Chinese and the Russians also use that name. It's because he
That,
thinks
there was
it
another
sounds
guy who he's
more
kind of like a
dangerous,
liberal
more
too.
big guy, more manly. Like Jesse said, it's a nickname.
It's that-
all a
it's
game.
that
and
other
first of all,
guy
this
in the
happened through, it passed through
fucking
Congress,
corner
so they're probably
over
going to have to
there.
go back through Congress to do it. So nothing has been changed except that their chyrons get to look that way.
Oh wait, no,
In
not
terms
him.
of smoking the
Oh, he's
canoe
not on
with the
this
drug
panel.
lords on it.
It's Gutfeld.
I don't know if it was extrajudicial. People have questions about how this happened, but our very own Jennifer Griffin was posting.
It's that
the fact
other
that
guy.
now
I think
there are 8 Navy
he's like a
destroyers in the
lawyer or something. I
Caribbean,
forgot
which
his
certainly
name.
seems like we are going to war in that region. So typically the F-35s that are on there would be heading to Iran, for instance, to blow up a nuclear facility. What exactly are we doing? And then by extension of that, is there a chance that Donald Trump is trying to get us into a war with Venezuela so that he can use the Alien Enemies Act to try to pull off some of the
Yeah, if
deportations
we
that
take
he has
out
failed
Venezuela,
to
I
be
don't
able to
care.
do in the first few months of his administration?
That's a good conspiracy theory.
You like
I
it?
hate to say it.
I
Some
give
of
it
the
to you.
Latin
I'll take it and
countries are
run with
shit
it.
countries.
Kaylee, your former boss. Does anything surprise you about him not wanting to be on defense? Right? He always says in his his
Especially
debates,
when
his
the Latin
interviews,
countries
never ever
don't
put yourself
fucking
on
do
the bench. You
anything
always
for
want to be on offense.
infrastructure,
You know him very well.
policing,
Because I remember being in a meeting with him when I was on the
right?
campaign, and we were determining the name for the counterpart to Act Blue.
They're
So it was, do we want
kind of
Act
like the
Red
Wild
or Win
West
Red?
in
And I
a
said, President Trump, we're winners. We win. He goes, yeah, that's right. Winning's better than acting. Win red doesn't surprise me. He wants to take off defense and put offense. Why? Because he's a president who's been on offense. This is more than just a name, Jessica.
Man,
this
you
is
shit.
an
In Mexico, you literally have a bunch of missing people
taking out the drug
because of cartel members doing
taking out
fucked up
Soleimani,
shit.
taking out al-Baghdadi, striking in Syria.
Either killing them,
when Biden
getting
said
into
don't,
drug,
President Trump said do.
human
and what you are looking
trafficking,
at is a
or they're
reflection of that. They are taking down defense.
buried
they are
like
going to
6
make this
feet
the Department
under,
of War.
right?
This is a
Where you
president
can't
of
find
offense.
these people.
He doesn't say don't, because when you say don't, the enemies act. When you say don't, Putin goes into Ukraine. When you say don't, Hamas attacks on October 7th. When you say do, when you actually do in action, you achieve the respect of the world, and that's what's happened with President Trump.
You were on
and by the
maternity
way,
leave. Congratulations, by the way, during the Alaska summit, where he thought he made a lot of progress. I'm sure you did.
You don't check
and
out.
then Putin showed up, and he's standing with President Xi, and Donald Trump says now they're
How
conspiring
many wars
against me.
did Biden end? Also, when I was on maternity leave, we got to the fact that there are 7 wars
very
that President
fresh,
Trump
even though you've been
ended.
on leave.
I am not fresh.
You are.
I'm very,
No,
and in fact, let me
no,
tell you
you're
how
fresh.
let me tell you how
Get to
fresh
a
I am not. I brought it
Get
for you.
fired.
You said you didn't know the legal justification for the striking of the ship. I brought it for you. OLC opinion from 1980, Article 2, Section 2, Commander-in-Chief power. So we've got that too. I'm fresh, and I brought my facts.
Wow, Jessica.
Boom. Greg, do you see any problem with this? By the way, that was fresh for you just a few moments ago.
I can smell it.
They're actively changing the names on those government buildings, as you can see, removing the defense.
I love the idea of changing names to represent the ideal, right? It's pure persuasion. This is why a lot of liberals like Jessica have to psychoanalyze him, because they don't understand persuasion. When you have somebody like Van Hollen who speaks like a lawyer,
I feel like
you're never
there
gonna
are
persuade
some
anybody. They should
people
do this
who
with all the
fucking
departments.
psychoanalyze
The
way
ATF, which
too
is
much.
alcohol,
And
tobacco,
it's just
firearms,
like, dude,
just called the
it's
Department
not
of
that
Fun.
deep sometimes.
You know, the IRS, the Department of Extortion, the Department of Indian Affairs, casinos. TSA, just call it second base. But Trump is the most anti-war president I've ever had the pleasure of being alive for. And all of his strikes, as you know, are highly specific. And you can only do that with a really, really powerful war machine. We predicted that the taking out the narco-terrorists, in a matter of time, the media and the Dems would side with the narco-terrorists because Trump did it. And also because their problems, i.e. the bad guys, always seem to matter more than ours, Americans, whether it's fentanyl, gangs,
Right.
sex trafficking.
We're always
I'm sure
on
one
the
of those
side
drug
of
smugglers, we will find out through Van Hollen,
lawlessness.
owned a puppy and used to read to his
Anything
grandma
against
late at
Trump
night.
is a win
But
for them, right?
We talk about the past. We don't have to go that far.
Even if
for
it
this
means
distinction.
getting their own
Trump was
citizenry
making a
killed.
distinction about the last 4 years. What did Biden do to the Department of Defense? He turned it into a laboratory for social experimentation. It wasn't about protecting the country. We saw it. Everybody knew it. It was about making it an enlightened vehicle for the rainbow people. They treated the military like a Disney remake. You know, let's update all the characters, right? We'll add a gay here, put a trans here, a non-binary woodland elf. And then Trump enters the picture. He says, no. It's about war. And if it doesn't fit that definition, we don't want it. His critics don't understand this. And he drives them crazy because he operates on a superpower they don't have, which is persuasion. What is persuasion? Blunt language. Usually that's pretty colorful and memorable. Department of War. You know, he understands incentives and disincentives. Department of War is a disincentive. What he also has you think past the sale. Calling it the Department of War then has you accept the premise in its own title. So when you hear things, you go, we need new missiles. Department of War. That sounds about right. We want a diversity month. Is that Department of War? No, it isn't. So he creates this world for you, and it drives the left crazy because they still haven't found the person who can do this.
It's true.
I can do it.
All right,
up for president.
Up next, the showdown in Chicago. ICE agents are ready for a raid.
Kevin Donegan, former director
It's
of
true.
operations.
They
at
don't
US
have a
Central Command.
figurehead
Admiral,
right
great
now.
to have you on the show. I mean, I want to pick up where Jonathan
They're
left off
they're
there
a
because it really
chicken
is.
with their head cut off
this
right
is a
now.
show
They're
of
still
force. I
fucking
want to put this
wild
map
and
up
about.
if I can on the screen because
They
here's
don't know
the
who to
Navy
put.
assets
They're
that
still
are in the
thinking
Caribbean.
about
We're
who
talking about the
AOC
ships
or some
in and
shit.
about the Caribbean area here.
Yeah,
and then
well,
you talk about having
Jasmine
these 10
Crockett just got
F-35
kicked out,
stealth
right,
fighters
or some
along
shit.
with that. What do you think of that presence, of that message?
What's his face?
Well, I think the message is clear
Gavin
that the
Newsom,
administration wants to. The message they want to send is that
Who else?
you know, we don't want these drugs to come into the United States. For years, we've under-resourced the mission.
I mean, I
to
guess you could
stop
put
the
Fetterman.
drugs that have been
Right, he's a
trafficked into the United
Democrat.
States through
I don't know
air,
if he wants to run for
land, and
president
sea.
though.
And I don't know if this is the right mix to change that dynamic.
Like, literally, Fetterman is probably kind of the most level-headed in a sense, even though he did that fucking Fetterwomen bullshit, right?
One geopolitical benefit of a U.S. policy to police the Caribbean more aggressively
But,
is
you
that
know,
it's
he's-
likely to
he might be
disrupt,
playing
at
up-
least in the short run,
playing up
the
the game.
Maduro dictatorship's dollar income from trafficking, which it relies on to remain in power even more than oil. I mean, this is a major economic blow for Maduro, which means we should expect some pushback here, Admiral. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, first of all, if you look at the problem we're trying to solve, and I think it's different from the U.S. versus Venezuela. I think the problem we're trying to solve is that these drugs are being shipped into our country in this way, right? And we need to stop that. And the way we go about dismantling networks is you get at their funding, you get at their supply line, you get at their distribution, and in some cases you get at your leadership. But in this case, you also have to get at the demand stream in the United States. All those together is why we've had drug czars
Yeah, I
for
mean,
decades,
you
right, trying to
have
tackle
got a bunch
that very
of
difficult problem. And none of
avenues you
those
got to
things
stop them
individually,
at,
none of
and
those-
well, you
any of
got to
those lines of
fucking knock
operation
them one by
individually are
one,
going
right?
to solve
In a
the
sense.
problem of drugs coming into the United States. But we have to do something about it. And the arguments currently are, should we
Basically,
continue
they want you to
let
do
this be,
nothing and let
led by
lawlessness
organizations,
happen.
Coast Guard
It's just like, what
organizations
the
that are
fuck?
responsible for law enforcement, or should this be a Department of Defense mission? And we could talk about that if you like.
Yeah. Very good questions. Admiral Dunnigan. thank you for
Basically,
your
they
time,
want
your
you to
analysis,
spend
we
more
appreciate it.
money on criminal activity.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube
Right,
page.
they're making
and
you
catch
pay
our
for
hottest
criminal
interviews and most
activity.
compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
All right, there you have it. That was the Pentagon deploys stealth fighter jets as Venezuelan aircraft. But it was just more of the talks throughout the yesterday about the whole thing. Anyways, there you have it.